Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, your premier platform for real-time global insights. Well, this animation you just saw here was 24 hours of radar. This is our mosaic radar image of all the radars across the United States. And of course, the main highlight of the weekend news story was what was going on with Barry. Now, as I step you back through this, there's some important things to kind of pay attention to here. You can see that Barry's main circulation actually moved through parts of Louisiana into Arkansas, right in through here, but clearly skewed on the right-hand side, which is typical of these systems, is where we saw much of our precipitation. Barry moved very slowly and in some locations produced some torrential rains, which we'll see in just a few minutes. Now, as Barry moved north, which interestingly enough, this is the first hurricane to begin with the letter B that has made landfall in the United States since Brett, which happened back in 1999. But notice on Sunday afternoon, look at the storms that popped all around the periphery of Barry. That's where the larger ridge was sitting. There was also a frontal boundary draped right in through here, on which we had quite a bit of stronger storms that moved through parts of Illinois and Indiana as well. But as Barry progressed toward the north, getting up there right where the Mississippi River meets the Ohio River, this is going to be our focus to see where the rain is going from Barry today. And also, will we continue to see a lot of stronger thunderstorms run around this ridge that is developing? Because certainly over the last 72 hours, Montana, you've taken a beating with some stronger storms. We've seen moving through the southern Canadian prairies, then here into the north central United States, a lot of severe weather as well. But again, some of the rainfall totals out of Barry here getting well over the 6 to 10 inch mark, and we're gonna have to wait to see later in the day on Monday what some of those rainfall totals were able to achieve. And again, flooding was always the main threat out of Hurricane Barry as it made landfall. Well, with this kind of as our backdrop, I want to switch over now and I want to show you our latest drought monitor update. This came back on Thursday. They're released every Thursday to the public, and what we can see here is that much of the United States is drought free. There are a few pockets still in the southeast. Remember how hot and dry things were early in the season. We've been watching very carefully parts of coastal Oregon and Washington here as they are in major deficit in precipitation compared to the what we should have seen over the last between 120 and 180 days. But outside of that, much of the Corn Belt is drought free. But we have to be concerned this time of year with something called flash drought. That is essentially where we have extreme heat, very, very high evapotranspiration rates, and we can just dry out that topsoil very quickly and stress our plants. So you're looking here at a map that shows the last 14 days of precipitation expressed as a percent of normal. Now, this is pre-Barry. This is valid only up to yesterday morning, Sunday morning. And we can see that if you are outside of this area here, where we've had some very, very active thunderstorm activity in parts of the north central plains and the high plains, outside of that, we've had just a lot of pockets of rainfall. Okay, the atmosphere's been juiced up, so we've been able to locally produce some heavy rainfall, but you can see places where we've missed it. Look at a lot of those reds. In fact, just in the last week, look at how dry things have been in through here. Although I know some folks that live in that area have seen some very heavy rainfall, outside of it, we've had some drier pockets. So we're starting to get concerned now as we move into this important time period of pollination for a lot of this crop. Remember how late it was planted, of course, that we need to be getting some rainfall. And the question is, will we be getting the rainfall, and who will be getting the rainfall? So we step up to the upper levels of the atmosphere first to kind of get our picture of what's going on. As we animate this forward, some of the bigger features are happening right out here. Okay, out in the open Pacific, we have this low pressure system that is kind of sitting here underneath that ridge. And the flow of the jet stream is doing something a bit like this, okay? With Barry sitting and spinning in this area. The flow is weak, the flow is north, and we're going to be watching for the development of kind of a dome of heat inside of that area over the coming days. Now, I'm going to take you up first to the jet stream, and then we'll get into the details in a few moments. I want you to pay very close attention to that low. Remember, we talked about this one with the ridge to the south of it here, because we want to watch where the progression of this low goes over the coming days, and then watch what happens right in through here with the development of much higher than average heights, which means ridging will be happening in the central plains of the United States. So as I click play, watch that trough sweep through British Columbia there into the Canadian prairies. Now see the ridge of heat building in, and you see it transitioning west with time. That particular sequence of events is going to be very important to U.S. agriculture, especially central U.S. agriculture, as we progress forward in this forecast. So let's see what some of the details are, okay? First, I want to play for you what we're going to see in terms of total accumulated precipitation from the European model. This starts off on Monday morning, and we're looking at the 12 hours of accumulated precipitation before that. So again, you can see the influence of Barry here. As I click play, we notice that the main features in the flow of the atmosphere over the next 10 days in this part of the United States tend to be a lot from Barry early on. Okay, Barry, that was the main feature there. We then tend to see quite a bit of thunderstorm activity in this particular region, and a lot of that is coming from what we call ridge riders. Remember how we saw the ridge building in here first and then transitioning back like this? We're going to get these storms that run right over the top of it, get some northwest flow, Gulf of Mexico stays wide open, and you see a lot of that precipitation coming on those storms. So we're going into a time period of very active, what we call mesoscale convective systems, squall lines in the north central plains. But the northern extent of Barry's moisture, we're going to have to wait and see how far to the north we're able to get this, because there are some places, as you just saw, that have been very, very dry over the last week to 15 days that need this rainfall in that area. But what you also see, look at the south central plains. This particular pocket here going to be largely void of major precipitation events in the coming days. And that is the main story that we want to be telling here at the beginning of this. So to start off first, what are we looking at here in terms of details over the next 24 hours or so? We're watching post-tropical cyclone Barry still putting down a lot of heavy precipitation, especially in this area, and then migrating here over the Ohio River Valley. Again, we're going to have to watch very carefully for where the northern edge of that heavier rainfall is. Meanwhile, there is a weak low pressure system still spinning here. You kind of saw that little wiggle in the flow of the jet stream. Well, that's helping to produce that little trough to produce that low pressure system. And we're going to watch the boundaries tucked in through here for some severe storms in this area in the day on Monday, and then back over into this area Monday into Tuesday as well. Meanwhile, higher atmospheric pressures kind of cleared out parts of the the northeastern part of the United States. And we're going to watch for just daily convection to happen right here on our mountains in the Four Corner states. Also, with that trough that is sweeping through, we will be watching for precipitation moving into parts of the Pacific Northwest. That's just our near-term stuff. Let's take a look at some severe weather here. In the day on Monday, Storm Prediction Center, again, we're going to watch this very carefully here in the north central plains where that boundary is lingering for some strong squall line thunderstorms. And then on the back side of this over here from parts of Montana into Wyoming, but of course getting back into South Dakota and Nebraska, chances for severe weather, and this is associated with Barry. By the way, the Gulf of Mexico is wide open and the moisture transport's getting pretty far to the north. And so I'll be traveling today to Saskatoon, which is here. We can actually see that a lot of that moisture is pushing clear up into the southern Canadian prairies, and they also have a risk today for strong to severe storms as well. So it looks like it's going to be a pretty stormy day. Maybe I'll be able to get some great footage from the airplane as we fly north. Okay, getting into the day on Tuesday, we're watching again parts of the higher plains here for the risk of severe weather, and as that frontal boundary still lingers in this area, that's where we're going to be on the lookout for stronger storms. And let's just take a look at that by watching our high-resolution NAM model. Now, as we play forward here, you're going to pay close attention, there we go, to what's going on with Barry. So the NAM model brings in these scattered showers that seem to progress all the way to maybe Interstate 72, Interstate 74, maybe getting up to I-80 running in through this area. So this will be a welcomed bit of shower and thunderstorm activity. But the question is, how much are we going to get out of this? Because this is very light rain at this point on the northern edge. Meanwhile, look what comes in on Monday evening. Minnesota, Wisconsin, we're watching very carefully for the development of a large squall line of thunderstorms in through this area to be progressing through this region. And as we stated, on the back side of this, watch the higher plains in through here light up late this afternoon and this evening with stronger storms. So from Colorado through Wyoming up into Montana, and then getting out into the high plains here into parts of Nebraska and South Dakota as well. So we're watching those areas for our stronger thunderstorms today. So let's now get into the overnight hours on Tuesday into the early morning hours. Again, just bands of showers moving through parts of Illinois, Indiana, maybe into southern Michigan here. This is the northern extent of Barry. Not a lot of very heavy rain widespread, some locally heavy pockets of rain, but desperately needed in some locations over there. Now, getting you out here to Tuesday afternoon and evening, we're watching again in the north central plains here for some more storms. You saw that a few moments ago in the SPC report. And Barry circulation finally starts to move off to the northeast, so scattered showers and storms here. But notice how squally things stay in the north central plains. See that? You just keep seeing, I'm just taking you through here, Tuesday afternoon and evening. You just keep seeing a lot of squalling activity. Now, does the model have this nailed down on the position of these storms? No. It's basically indicating where we have the best conditions, and that's what we're going to keep watching for here in the north central plains over the coming days. Now, let's stretch this out over the next 10 days using the European model. So I'm going to click play and pause it right there. This is, again, Tuesday afternoon, getting into Tuesday evening. And what are we going to see? Well, the remnants of Barry moving in this direction, okay? And just a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity here in the north central plains, riding around this ridge that's developing right in through this area. So we're going to talk temperatures in a few moments, but these storms are riding right around the northern periphery of that ridge. See them? They just keep blowing up here. I just took you through Saturday afternoon right here into Saturday evening. Now we're into Sunday morning. And you just keep seeing it, right? Sunday afternoon, evening, getting into Monday, early Monday morning. It's in that same corridor that things stay quite active. Now, by the time we progress out to the 24th, 25th, and 26th, okay, really getting into the 24th and 25th, you do notice this broader shield of precipitation in through here. This is what we're looking at seeing happen. The dome of heat, the ridge is looking to move out toward the west, and at that point, the flow of the jet stream may be doing something a bit more like this. And at that point, we may start to see some cooler weather returning to the eastern half of the United States while the ridge slowly transitions in this direction. But if I could just summarize what I just showed you here, this area is staying very active with a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity, mainly confined into this area. It'll be important to see how far to the south it gets. Drying through here, remnants of Barry going like this. So if I show you just the next 15 days of total accumulated precipitation in terms of anomalies, got the European on the left, I got the GEFS, that's the GFS ensemble on the right. They are in agreement that this corridor in through here has the active ridge riding storms. Remnants of Barry in through here. Where these models are not handling precipitation very well is going to be over parts of the southeast. European models saying much closer to average, maybe even wet in week 2. GFS ensemble is calling for dry. They don't have this pinned down very well at all. But the north central plains, southern Canadian prairies, very active as that trough sweeps in and cuts right across that area while heat builds to the south of it. So let's talk heat now as we get toward the end of this video. Starting you off in the day on Monday, high temperatures. Look at the 90s stretching clear up into parts of South Dakota, getting up into parts even into North Dakota and Minnesota. Barry's cloud cover keeping things cool here, but we're scorching. We actually have heat advisories here over for parts of the Carolinas in the day on Monday. Let's now get over into the day on Tuesday. Watch this again with me. There we go. So Tuesday's high temperatures. Look at the heat building here in the south central plains. Temperatures now cranking up towards triple digit. The cooling effect of Barry now moving off by Wednesday here over into parts of the Ohio River Valley heading to the northeast. And underneath that larger ridge, look at the triple digit heat building here. 90s getting up into Iowa. Very, very hot. Getting into Thursday. Major heat going on here. Wow, the trough sweeps into the northwest, keeping temperatures much cooler than average in that area. Now let's get over into Friday. Heat is still on. This is several days of high temperatures here, and this is Saturday and Sunday. You can see the heat is on for the midsection of the country. It's not just the heat, it is also going to be the humidity. I'm just going to play this for you. Ready? When we watch this animation, looking at dew point temperatures here, keep your eyes focused on these colors. Those are the high dew point temperatures in the 60s and 70s. And as I click play, you can just see the moisture pulling out of the Gulf of Mexico, staying in the eastern half of the country for several days in a row. I just took you all that to the 25th here. It is going to be hot. It is going to be very humid. Storms will pop in the afternoon. We're going to watch for a lot of squall lines again coming in from this direction over the coming days. In terms of temperatures over the next 5 days, again, the cooler weather that we do see that's going on down here, a lot of this is from cloud cover, still remnant from Barry. But remember that flow pattern, that trough is digging in like this with the ridge building underneath it, and that's why it's cool in the northwest. As we move out to days 5 through 10, that's when we really get that flow pattern doing this. Big time dome of heat in through this area. A lot of thunderstorm activity around it here in the north central plains and in the high plains. Northwest stays cool. But watch this. As we get out to day 11 through 15, European model left, GFS right. We do start to see as we get toward the end of July a return towards some normal temperatures here in the eastern half of the country, while some warmth maybe starts to rebound here out west. The GEFS kind of signals a similar thing here. Now, we have known, and we've been paying attention to these patterns for a while now, and we have to see if this cooler bias is really in the cards here for the eastern half of the country, and is it long-lived? I'll be addressing this in my long-range update that comes out on Wednesday, but I'll watch it throughout the rest of this early part of this week to see if this model trend is consistent. We've had some hints at it, some return towards some cooler weather, but you noticed throughout much of the month of July that the forecast pattern, when it's forced to break down, hasn't always broken down on time. So that's what I'll be spending some time diagnosing early this week. But it looks as though the heat may have, the extreme heat may have an end to it, which would be the very end of the month of July. But will it rebound? We'll figure that out and give you the longer range forecast on Wednesday. Bigger picture things here, which we'll talk about again on long range forecast. We have seen with what's going on in the Pacific Ocean. Remember, we were watching and been discussing how the El Nino base state has kind of been collapsing. We can continue to see here ocean temperatures cooling off. You can see that right in through this corridor here. So that's an important signal for the longer range forecast for what's going on in the Midwest and in parts of the plains here of the United States in terms of temperatures and precipitation. In terms of tropical activity, remember we were watching, we've been talking about this, the progression of some upper level support moving finally out of the Pacific and over into the Atlantic. And with the collapsing El Nino, we're going to be reducing wind shear across much of the Atlantic, which will increase the chances of tropical systems getting going, although right now there is nothing forecast there over the next 5 days for the Atlantic for development. Meanwhile, coming over to Europe here to finish out this video, we will be seeing the heat rebounding toward the end of this week and early next week. I've got you out here in the day 5 through 10 temperature pattern. We can see the warmth returning to Europe in this area while we hang on to the cooler bias here. And for geography, this is the Black Sea, so this is Ukraine and this is Russia. So we can see that overall temperatures are going to be much warmer to the west than they are to the east. Also, still seeing a lot of severe weather in parts of Italy. They've been pounded with severe weather recently, a lot of hail reports. And in and around the Black Sea, slight risk for thunderstorms today. Overall, over the next 15 days, much of Europe stays on the drier side of things. Again, Black Sea right in through this area. Much of Ukraine is looking on the drier side of things, but the Russian wheat belt is showing up wet. And a lot of that is due to the fact we're going to be seeing building in toward the end of this week a larger trough in this area. That'll help build a ridge here, pumping in some heat. But the bigger trough in this area is still going to keep this area cool and wet. So that's kind of what's going on in Europe over the next week to 10 days. I'm going to finish up quickly taking you over to what's going on in parts of Asia and India. And we can see here that over the next 5 days, we're going to be watching this particular growing region south of Beijing actually relatively dry. Just a lot of scattered showers and thunderstorms here in the growing regions north of Beijing. So we've kind of picked up on a bit of a drier bias for a while here in this very productive area of China. We are watching a tropical system we're investigating right now that may potentially track just like this, and that's what's kind of upset the heavier rainfall we've seen down here with the Mayu front kind of backing off. In India, we need the next pulse here of tropical moisture, and it's not right now on its way, so looking to be relatively dry and hot week in parts of India. So I want to give you that global perspective as we wrap up this forecast video. With that, we'll go ahead and finish it up right there. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions hope you have a great week. We'll hope you look forward to seeing all of our forecast content coming out at my.nutrienagsolutions.com, and we'll talk to you again very soon. Thank you.